Let's jump right into this explainer. We're looking at the highly regulated, incredibly high-stakes world of mineral asset valuation. It's this fascinating intersection of geology, finance, and some really strict regulatory frameworks. Basically, experts have to figure out exactly what's buried beneath our feet and, more importantly, what it's actually worth. So think about this for a second. How do you value a random patch of dirt that might hold a billion-dollar deposit? Assigning a price tag to unproven ground, or even an operating mine, isn't just a matter of throwing darts at a board. It's a really meticulous process governed by some serious rules. We're talking about a massive puzzle where billions of investment dollars are literally on the line. To keep us on track, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the Valmin Code fundamentals. Then look at the 3 core valuation approaches, how value shifts depending on the project stage, the difference between technical and market value, and finally, how we navigate uncertainty and those massive valuation ranges. All right, part 1, the Valmin Code fundamentals. Now, if you're looking at the Valmin Code, it really hammers home 2 crucial concepts: reasonableness and independence. Reasonableness basically means the whole assessment has to be impartial, rational, and logical. Makes sense, right? And independence means the person evaluating the asset absolutely cannot have any conflict of interest, no present or future stake in the dirt, and no ties that could lead to bias. Because, let's be real, if the valuer is biased or their logic is flawed, the underlying math doesn't even matter. Building right on top of that, valuers have to stick to 3 more fundamental principles. First up is competence. The report has to be put together by someone who is actually qualified and bound by a strict ethics code. Next is materiality. This just means you have to include all the important stuff an investor would reasonably need to make a solid judgment call. And finally, transparency. The data has to be clear as day. The whole point here is that anyone reading the public report should be able to follow the breadcrumbs, replicate the logic, and know for sure they aren't being taken for a ride. Moving right along to part 2, the 3 core valuation approaches. So, crack open the valuation toolbox, and you'll find 3 main tools. First, you've got the market approach, which relies on the principle of substitution. Essentially, you're looking at comparable open market transactions. What did similar assets just sell for? Then there's the income approach, which is all about anticipating future economic benefits. This is where you bring out the heavy-hitting financial models, like discounted cash flow, to predict future cash generation. And lastly, the cost approach. This one is based on the principle of contribution to value. You basically look at the money already spent on things like past exploration and then apply multiples to it based on how much that work actually contributed to the asset's potential. Okay, section 3, valuation by project stage. If we follow a single patch of dirt over time, it transitions through very specific stages of development. We start at the beginning with early-stage exploration projects. Here, we're really just identifying anomalies and drill targets. Almost nothing is proven yet. From there, we move into pre-development, where the actual resource drilling begins. Then comes the development phase, which is defined by feasibility studies. And finally, we arrive at the production stage, a bustling, operating mine with declared ore reserves. Now, the crucial thing to remember is that the valuation tool you use depends entirely on where your project sits on this timeline. The Valmin guidelines lay down the law on exactly when you can use these different tools. It's really interesting. The cost approach is highly applicable when you're in that early exploration phase, but it is strictly banned once you hit development. On the flip side, the income approach is fully embraced once a project actually reaches the development and production stages, but you are flat out prohibited from using it for early stage exploration. So why exactly is the income approach restricted early on? Well, in plain English, you simply can't build a financial model predicting millions in future cash flow if you haven't even proven the gold or copper is actually down there. The income method, especially discounted cash flow modeling, relies entirely on anticipating those cash flows. To report this publicly, you generally need a declared ore reserve that follows really strict technical guidelines like the JOR code. Trying to apply these forward-looking income models to unproven, less advanced deposits is just completely inappropriate. It's a surefire way to mislead investors. Let's jump in to section 4, technical versus market value. This distinction is absolutely critical. Think of technical value, which is sometimes called investment value, as the strict mathematical worth of the minerals minus the cost to extract them, based on a specific set of assumptions. The key here is that it specifically excludes any market premiums or discounts. It's just the raw numbers. Market value, or fair value, is completely different. That's the actual amount of cash the asset should change hands for between a willing, knowledgeable buyer and seller in an arm's-length transaction. So market value inherently includes all of those real-world premiums or discounts driven by investor sentiment, current commodity cycles, and good old-fashioned market competition. And finally, Section 5, navigating uncertainty and ranges. As you might guess, dealing with valuation ranges means you have to use different methods as a project matures. Early on in exploration, you're relying heavily on a mix of expenditure multiples and, frankly, some empirical guesswork. But as that project progresses toward feasibility studies, the methodology shifts almost entirely to income and net present value methods, maybe with some comparative sales sprinkled in for good measure. It's basically a steady evolution of confidence in the data. Now, because these financial models can get incredibly complex, valuers need a way to make sure their calculations are actually, sane. To do this, they benchmark their primary findings against secondary methods, often called in situ values or yardsticks. This is essentially a quick sanity check based on the raw volume of minerals sitting in the ground, or even just the size of the lease area. We're talking basic metrics like dollars per hectare or dollars per resource ounce. It's a great way to keep all that primary math grounded in reality. And believe me, we really need those sanity checks. Because of data uncertainty and shifting assumptions, you can see some truly vast ranges applied to these projects. Just to put this into perspective, one of our source documents reviewing the Carmagan-Tai project showed the valuer establishing a low estimate of $108 million and the high estimate of $233.6 million using a mix of market and cost methods. That means the completely valid valuation range spanned a massive $125.6 million. It's kind of wild when you think about it. So, what are our final takeaways here? Under the Valmin Code, valuations absolutely require multiple data points and methods to handle both geological and market uncertainty. Ultimately, the practitioner evaluates all these overlapping methods and picks a preferred value that sits somewhere between the high and low bounds. And because the ultimate value varies so widely based on the lease area and how mature the data is, those massive multi-million-dollar ranges we just talked about, they are completely valid and expected. I'll leave you with this provocative thought as we wrap up this explainer. When you consider the massive swings in acceptable value, like a $125 million variance on a single project, and this unique blend of strict codes with expert assumptions, is mineral valuation ultimately a rigid science, or is it a highly regulated art? It's this fascinating balancing act between rigorous scientific principles and expert human judgment. Thanks for exploring this topic with me, and I hope this gives you a much clearer lens into how the earth beneath our feet is truly valued.